Okay, today is November 1st, 2023. I want to talk today about this ongoing battle between Israel and Hamas. I seen in the news some prominent celebrities started talking about this and received negative backlash from a lot of haters and different groups. I'm not going to talk about them specifically, but I'll talk about my view about what's going on, and that is that what happened was an atrocity that Hamas committed by going into Israel and killing more than 1,000 innocent people, butchering them, doing terrible things to them. These are facts. This is what happened, and I want to talk from the perspective of an Israeli citizen, which I am because I lived in Israel for 8 years. I lived through numerous wars, skirmishes that weren't long-lived wars. Anywhere between 3 to 10, 12 days. Just from the perspective of someone who lived in Israel, I know Israel has the Iron Dome rocket system, which intercepts 90% of the missiles. But you have to understand something. As a citizen, someone who lived there, a civilian, Hamas was shooting at innocent civilians. I wasn't fighting against Hamas. I'm not part of the government. I'm not part of the army. I wasn't part of the army. They're shooting at everyone. It was a missile that landed about a kilometer, a mile, less than a mile away from me, and thankfully no one was in the house when it destroyed the house. And to have those sirens ring out, to have four little kids in my house having to run to a shelter, and the apartment I was living in, a shelter wasn't available at that point because it was an older building. You have to huddle in a hallway, I had to scramble to get four young kids and to lock all the doors and pray that it's going to be okay anytime a siren goes off. First of all, sirens are a traumatic experience. People who live in America don't understand what it really is to go through a war. I was praying that for a ceasefire all the time. I hated those sirens. Every night you can't go to sleep, you can't go to the bathroom because you're afraid that there's going to be a siren and you have to run to the shelter. There's a real threat, a credible threat to citizens, civilians. Regular civilians, men, women, and children, everybody, innocent people. And Hamas has been doing this for years. For years they've been doing this. You have to understand what it means to live in Israel. It's not normal living conditions to live in a country that it's a vulnerability that Israel had, that Hamas can just shoot rockets at any time they wanted. They're dictating the terms that Israel can't go make parades about certain days they celebrate as a nation, as a country. The whole world recognizes Israel as an independent sovereign state, and they can't celebrate their own holidays because of protests that Hamas is going to shoot rockets to them. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a crazy, crazy terrorist organization over here, Hamas, which obviously is not just Hamas itself. It's tied all the way back to Iran and Hezbollah. It's all funded by Iran. And you have to understand, this is terrorism at its worst. The word terrorism is from terror. Because the worst part, obviously killing people is the worst part, but it inspires terror in so many people. I'm traumatized by these sirens, honestly. I'm being honest with you 100%. I'm traumatized by these sirens. I hear a siren, I'm traumatized by that. I remember the first time I was in 2014, I was visiting before I moved there in 2015, and there was a war during the summer. I think it was called Suk Eitan, I forget the English name, Protective Edge maybe, but I had to run upstairs to the shelter. My first time hearing a siren, I thought all the missiles were going to land and it was going to break the buildings. It didn't happen, because the Iron Dome thing thankfully intercepts most of the missiles. But it's scary to live there, and people don't understand this. People cannot pass judgment about what goes on in Israel until you've actually lived there, until you've actually lived in a country where there's continuous warfare going on all the time. And I wasn't living directly on the border. There's people that live directly on the border of Gaza. They wrote Ashkelon, Ashdod, those places in the south where almost, bi-weekly they have to run to shelters. They have shelters all over the place to live like that. And why do these people live there if they're living under such terrible conditions? They live there because they love their land, they love their people, and they are the true ones that are protecting the Jewish identity by having a Jewish country. And it's kind of terrible that people can pass judgment, make statements about people, or hate people for saying certain things when they have not lived there and they've not experienced this firsthand. I will say this about the war, my personal opinion, what's going on. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I I am not anti-Palestinian. I'm anti-Hamas, and I'm thankfully the media is calling this the Israel-Hamas war. It should never be called the Israel-Gaza war. There are good Jews, there are good people, and there are bad Jews, and there are bad people. And I'm sure there's good Palestinians and there's bad Palestinians. And Hamas is all bad. And Hamas is the terrorist group. And that is what we're fighting against. We're not fighting against Gaza. Palestinians, a lot of them are good people. And no innocent people. All these posts, Selena Gomez, Gigi Hadid, I don't remember how to say her name right, have written recently on Instagram, on social media. You know, they're defending the rights of innocent people. They keep on writing that innocent people, whether you're Jewish or you're Palestinian, those people are not the enemy. The enemy is Hamas. Let's be real clear about this because they're the one that govern that. You can notice the difference between the West Bank and Gaza. And West Bank is controlled by the Palestinian Authority, who cooperate in large with the Israeli government. Mohammed Abbas does a nice job of cooperating with the Israeli government, but when you have a terrorist group, Hamas is constantly, and Islamic Jihad also, constantly sending rockets into Israel. Sometimes on a bi-weekly basis, whenever they just decide to. They start skirmishes. And then everyone, the world, there's a tremendous backlash in the United Nations and around the world. How could you shoot into them? And you know what Israel does when they go and they were doing air, before the ground invasion now. When they're having an airstrike, they send out leaflets telling people to get out of the buildings. They do everything possible not to injure even one civilian. Why? Because in the media, even American media and definitely media in the Middle East from the Arab countries make such a big deal. They killed civilians. You have to realize Hamas is shooting rockets indiscriminately over the years on a bi-weekly basis at innocent civilians. They're not shooting at the army. They're shooting at people like me. They're shooting at people who live all over Israel. And it's a terrible atrocity to compare the two. How can you even compare the two? You can't possibly compare what Hamas does to the Israeli government. You can't possibly compare the two, you know? If it was fair, and warfare, there's no rules in war, right? There's not supposed to be rules in war, are there, right? All is fair in love and war, right? Isn't that a book? But Israel is above and beyond what they do, the government. They try their utmost because they care what the media says, you know? And I for sure do not want innocent Palestinians to be killed. But you have to realize that Israel cannot exist as a state with the presence of a Hamas governing the Gaza Strip. They cannot exist because you can't live a life where you're afraid, where you're always in terror. Living in Israel, for certain places in Israel, is a life of terror all the time. And it's not a life. A life of terror is not a life. And Hamas, what they are doing, and all these terrorist organizations, ISIS and Hezbollah, Iran, all of them, whatever they're doing, they're rooting, because life is not just about whether you're breathing or not. Life is quality of life. That's really what life is. And if you cannot be assured of a quality life, it's almost like you don't have life at all. And having terrorism, an ever-present possibility in your life, is the equivalent, truthfully, of not having a life. And what Israel is doing now is trying to rid Hamas of Hamas. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's casualties that innocent, hopefully it's not innocent people, hopefully only the guilty people will be killed. But, you know, unfortunately there's casualties in war. But this is a necessary step that Israel is doing right now. And I back up the Israeli government 100% on what they're doing. I know other people haven't backed up the Israeli government 100%, but you have to realize that what the government is doing is trying to do it in the most humane. I know Jews, all Jews, have good hearts, and the good people in the Israeli government have a good heart. I'm not sure who's in the government right now. I don't follow politics, especially Israeli politics, so well. But I will tell you this, that I pray, just like I pray for Jews, I pray for the Palestinians, that only the people that are truly guilty should be the ones to suffer, and not the people that are truly innocent. The truly innocent people, whether you're Jewish or you're Palestinian, I hope they are spared, they are saved their lives. And only the people that are truly the guilty ones. And only God knows who the guilty people are. But Hamas is definitely guilty party over here, and they should be rid of, it should be extinct. Their flame should be extinguished from the world, so that we can have a more peaceful world where you can go to a country like Israel and enjoy a tremendous country, because Israel is really a tremendous country. Listen, I give America 10 out of 10 as a country. Israel, I give 8 out of 10 as a country. There's only two countries I really lived in, but I give grades accurately. America is an amazing, amazing country that we have, and I'm proud to be a citizen of both countries. Um, but Israel's at 8. They're not where America is. They don't have all the luxuries that America has, the great life in America, but Israel is a developed country. It's a great country. Benjamin Netanyahu has done an amazing job in the last 20 years of building it up, not just to be militarily successful, but also to be financially successful. So much, so much invention, innovation, especially in technology, has come out of Israel. So many of the things that we use have come out of Israel, and it really has been a light into the nations. A lot of the things that the Jews in Israel have done, and people, all there are citizens in Israel are not Jewish, Arab citizens and Christian citizens and other citizens, Druze citizens, that have also contributed to this. It's a country, it's a viable sovereign state that the world accepts by and large, and it should accept by and large, contributes to the world a lot more than its population should, would indicate based on the percentages. So Israel is an awesome country. I love Israel very much, and I always stand with Israel. Does not mean I don't like Palestine. Palestinians are nice people, the good Palestinian people. I'm a big fan of those people. I'm just a big fan of any person who's Jewish or not Jewish, whatever denomination or race you are. Let's end racism, like on the NFL football field. You see near the goalpost, end racism. We're all one people. We're all human beings. Let's just be human beings. Pray for the truly innocent people. They should not be harmed. And pray for the truly good people that their lives should get better and better forever.